Deion Sanders' impact coaching at Jackson State has started to reverberate around the college football world as another HBCU, Tennessee State, announced that Heisman Trophy winner and former All-Pro running back Eddie George would be their next head coach, despite no formal experience, really. And now Sanders says other NFL alumni could be looking to coach at HBCUs, saying that Hall of Famers and former Ravens Ray Lewis and Ed Reed are intrigued and that their interest, quote, could be a phenomenal thing. So, Shannon, can you see this becoming a trend with former stars taking HBCU gigs?
I think the thing is guys want to coach, and this is where they have to start. This is their launching point. This is their jumping off point, Skip. The thing is that when I found, look, Rod Woodson, who's a very good friend of mine, Skip, he was coaching at one point in time. But when you're talking about this level of a player, that's not any guy, Skip. That wasn't a guy that just played. You're talking about defensive player of the years. We're talking about historically all time. All four of the guys that I just mentioned, Skip, are top 100 players in the history of the game.
Yep.
So you put one of those guys on the staff, let's just say Ray Lewis is a linebacker coach. Well, that's going to make the defensive coordinator feel some type of way because that's Ray Lewis. And the guys are going to want to listen to what he has to say. That's Ed Reed, the ball hawk. I believe I played against, watched on tape, he's the greatest safety ever played. I played against Deion Sanders.
Agreed.
I talked to time.
You know what? Rod Woodson was in the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. But see, Rod, people don't realize Rod started off as a corner. Rod was defensive player of the year as a cornerback at Pittsburgh. I talk to Time once a week. That's my dog. But what happens, Skip, is that they want to coach.
You're talking about Deion Sanders.
Deion Sanders, yeah, prime. They want to coach, but someone giving them, because they're so big, the aura around them is so big, it would almost drown out the head coach, let alone the defensive coordinator. So I want to coach, I got to start here.
Okay, so you're talking about stepping stone jobs?
Yes, they got to take those. Skip, you that. Look, you think they're going to be able to get a job like Vrabel? He was the linebacker coach in Houston for 3 years. He became They demoted Romeo Crennel to promote Mike Vrabel because it was going to look better as a DC than a linebacker coach. And guess what? They demoted Romeo, promoted Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel got the head job in Tennessee the next year. And then after that, guess what? Romeo Crennel went right back to being a DC. See how they did that? That's not going to happen. So Time, you don't think Time would like to coach at a Power 5 or a bigger school? But he got to start here. So they want to coach, but they realize they're not going to get the opportunities because they're Skip, that ain't just anybody. That's Brian, that's Deion Sanders, that's Ed Reed, that's Ray Lewis, that's Rod Woodson. And, you know, Rod said anytime that he was, you know, he used to coach at the Raiders, but, like, he would try to, like, correct the guy and said, you know, people get upset. He's like, well, I'm just saying, what you're teaching is not going to work on Sundays. And people take offense to that. Just teach what I'm telling you. Who you think knows more about a technique of playing cornerback or safety? Rod Woodson or a defensive coordinator? Who you think knows more about the technique or how you're supposed to get from point A to point B as a linebacker?
Yeah.
And so that's the problem that they're running into. So I don't know if it's necessarily per se, I'm glad that black colleges are benefiting from these great minds being head coaches, but I think that the opportunity is that this is where they have to start. We ain't got no problem with that, Skip, because hell, we always had to start at the bottom, and everybody know what I'm talking about. So there ain't no problem. Not that this is bad or anything, but I believe everybody wants to test their mettle. Nick Saban went to the NFL, Skip, because he wanted to see if he could do it, right? He found out it was a lot more difficult than he actually thought it was. He took his butt back to college, where he's the greatest college coach in NCAA history.
So I'm completely off the top of my head here, trying to respond to your point, but I'm trying to think of black star players who became head coaches in the National Football League, and I'm stuck on Mike Singletary, and I can't think of another one.
I can't either.
Right?
I can't either. I can't either, no.
So what was his route? What was his path? It was a pretty...
He was a linebackers coach. And he was the linebackers coach in Baltimore.
Yep.
And then, if I'm not mistaken, I think he became the DC. No, he might have just got the head job at the 49ers. Skip.
I think it was a pretty meteoric rise. But it was a solo rise because I can't think of another one, to your point. Okay. So, silly me on this. When I thought of this last night, I was looking at it with rose-colored glasses because I wasn't thinking of stepping stones. I was thinking of places in their hearts where they felt a passion and a calling to go to an HBCU to say they need some help and we could bring stature, which they definitely will bring.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think they can be successful. And yet to your point, that especially we got Eddie George, Ray, Ed, they've coached none, right? Like they would just suddenly be the head coach.
Right.
But in college football, head coaching, what is the key element? It's just recruiting. It's a recruiting game.
Yeah.
It is being able to go into a living room and recruit a mom. To me, and all four of the ones we named would be powerful, charismatic recruiters.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Even if you just had them on your staff, Skip, because I think Ed, at one point in time, he was helping at the University of Miami.
Well, I think he still is.
Okay.
I think he was. I think he did last year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't get any better. You can't get any better recruiters than those guys, Skip.
Okay. So what needs to start happening is they need to take these jobs, and I'm just looking at their ability to succeed at Tennessee State or Jackson State or Savannah State or wherever it is.
Right.
How fast could they succeed? Well, they need to start flipping some 4-stars, maybe an occasional 5-star to get themselves on the map.
Right.
And then this is just me. My mind was really going crazy places last night. What needs to start happening is that occasionally they would recruit a really good white player.
Yeah.
Seriously, because when I went to Grambling and did my big piece on Doug Williams and Coach Robinson, and I spoke to the team.
They know the punters and the kickers.
Well, but they had white kids on the team, and I was like, wow.
Our kicker was white, Skip.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yes.
Well, so there's precedent for it.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about some, 4-star offensive tackle, white kid. If you could start getting an occasional one of those kids to go
white
here,
guy,
well, then all of a sudden you could start to be competitive with the powerhouses, right?
Because Skip, there's a lot of time is that you look at the black colleges and if you look at, I think they're probably before the last, say, decade or so, there were more players from black colleges in the Hall of Fame than Power 5. Right?
Yeah.
But what happened is that they saw, well, Mel Blount went to Southern. He in the NFL. Man, I played against Mel. I could go. And so you had a lot of guys going that route. Now we don't see nearly as many guys. I think Darius Leonard might be the biggest name that I can call off the top of my head, Skip, that went to HBCU, went to South Carolina State, and say like the last 5 to 10 years. Guys go to Alabama. Hey, man, they had Julio, Calvin Ridley, Amari Cooper.
It just seems like a faster track.
Right. And so that's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to get a couple of guys, go to the NFL, and see other guys see. Man, he went to the NFL from Jackson State. Because, Skip, nobody remember Robert Brazile. People don't, Walter Payton, they know who he is, but they don't really know that he's Lem Barney. Skip, there are a lot of guys in the Hall of Fame from Jackson State and Southern and Grambling.
Too tall jump.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tennessee State.
Yeah. Okay.
So
I just love this trend, and if it has to be a stepping stone, fine.
So, hey.
But if you could get these HBCUs back on the national map, because now, listen, starting in the fall, I know they played an abbreviated schedule in the spring, but I'm going to follow Jackson State. I'm going to follow Tennessee State.
Think about how many times Jackson State was on TV on ESPN, Skip. Like 4 times in the last month. They was every Saturday.
Yep.
Or Sunday they playing.
Why not?
So the attention, you're right, the attention that these guys will bring. But I wish I don't know how they do it. I just don't. Time got patience. He got patience from Joel. I just don't have the patience, Skip. I just can't, tell somebody we practice it and then you blow it in the game. And then we correct it in the game and then you go blow it again. See, nah, bro, I can't. But those guys got patience. They want to do that. I've never wanted to be a coach. I didn't want to coach my kids' teams, soccer, nothing. Because I know, I just know you got to know you, Skip. You got to be patient. You got to be a parent. You got to be a coach. You got to be a psychologist. You got to be a lot of things.
And finally, you have to be willing to start on a lower budget than you're used to.
Oh, yeah.
Because some of those trips are going to be on buses.
Oh, yeah, most of them. I mean, I never took a plane. We never took a plane on it. I mean, the farther we went, probably like 5 hours, 6 hours, Burlington, North Carolina, play Elon, but we bussed everywhere. It was cool, though, Skip. Hey, it was cool.
You were the life of the bus party?
Yeah,
Really? It was Club Shay Shay in the back of the bus?
Yeah, Skip, it used to be, it was like, we first started out, it was offense on one bus, defense on another bus. And then coach was like, nah. Then it was starters, the starters on one bus and the backups on the other bus. But, we had to go and play games in the back, We stop up at a convenience store, Skip, I mean, like, team stopping. I don't think they do that now, but Skip, it was fun. I wouldn't change that experience. The planes are fun, But those bus trips, man.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, if only we had some old footage
Man, Jenny.
on your road trip.
Jenny.
I could only imagine. It's probably better we don't, maybe.
Yeah, we will need that footage. We don't need that footage.
I thought you were studying the back of the book.
Yes.
Man, I don't know. On Friday we traveling to the game. No, we playing spades.
You took your homework, right?